Hey TJ, let's take a look at your final project here. Not, I don't think a whole lot to talk about since the last time that we saw this. The additions look good, a little bit of extra shading going on throughout the drawing. It feels like a few things have kind of deepened in terms of the darker areas, which is good, and you're still keeping all the great textural stuff that's going on here. I think it's a good, solid final project in a lot of ways. I think there are things that could be done, but I don't think this is really the place or the time to work on them. I think that some shadows and some of the shading in a lot of these elements could be, more dramatic, but it's difficult to kind of do that without having a really kind of good idea of how dark you want to go. And I think it really just comes with more practice, and not just in marker, but just in general in compositions and rendering, and getting kind of a dramatic difference between the lights and the darks. And you'll see a lot of concept art where, a lot of the periphery is very, very much in shadow, and there's very high contrast between highlights and shadow tones and things like that. That would help to make it more dramatic. I think the shadows that you have, especially around the dragon, work out probably the best. Down here, down behind the legs, I really like a lot, in some of these dark shadows that are cast against the wall. But for me, I think more than anything, it just ends up being one of these very, very good assignments that wraps up all the things that we deal with in the class. It has some places where I think it could be improved, but I think for this class and for what we're trying to do and the new materials that we're working with, it's a really excellent job overall. Texturally, a lot of wonderful textures. I love the gold, especially as we get kind of closer in this corner. I love the way that you rendered the gems and the gold together. The dragon itself has a great texture going on. I think I mentioned this in the draft, that it's not overstated. It's not something that's overtaking the dragon and making it very confusing to look at. It's just kind of there. It helps to kind of add an extra element to things, but it doesn't really in any way detract from anything, which I think is great. The ground plane, the gold that's farther away, and the stone in the background, I think are all very, very kind of well attended to. And this is, for me, something that you don't see a lot of, where the student really pays attention to all the elements within the situation. The ground plane, the stone, the gold, the dragon, everything feels like it has a good amount of thought being put into it, not just texturally, but color-wise, value-wise, and shading and that sort of stuff. So I'm really happy with that, I think, more than anything else, in how things kind of turned out. It's a great example of marker usage. I don't notice any one area where I actually feel like the marker and the color pencil are conflicting. I don't feel in any one area where the marker doesn't feel like it's being attended to properly, which is good. And I think you're doing a great job of laying in a lot of base coats for the color and then going over top of it with detail. The gold being the prime one, but the dragon itself as well, doing a good example of that. So I think it wraps things up really well. It has color, it has texture, it has solid technique. You've got some good values in place and some good lighting situation in place. So I'm happy with how it turned out, and I think more than anything, it's one of these really good final projects that tries to deal with a lot of the things that we've been dealing with, rather than just kind of throwing it all to the wind and just kind of doing whatever. This, I think, really has the class in mind, which is great to see. So a great job, really good job overall. Good luck with all your classes and with all your future stuff, and maybe I'll see you around.